The heaviest prison in this world is not built with stone walls or iron bars. It is built quietly inside your own mind with words you never say out loud. We believe that thinking more will protect us from pain. We believe that analyzing every detail will save us from failure. But overthinking does not solve tomorrow's problems. It only steals today's peace. My name is Xylos, and this is the story of Julian, an elderly watchmaker who had nothing but a ticking workshop, a heavy heart, and an incredibly loud mind. An element that slowly changed his entire life. If you listen closely, this story may also help you improve your English listening, vocabulary, and deep mental focus. Julian was a master of his craft. For 40 years, he lived in a foggy northern valley town where people valued slow work. His workshop was filled with the steady, endless sound of ticking clocks. But inside Julian's head, the noise was much louder. Every night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. His mind constantly replayed the choices of his past. Did I close the shop door properly? What if the roof breaks during the winter? Why did I speak so harshly to my neighbor 10 years ago? He was trying to fix things that had already happened or things that might never happen. His body was always present, but his mind was always somewhere else. When customers entered his shop, he barely looked at them. He would hand them their repaired clocks while secretly worrying about his falling health, his small savings, and the uncertain future. Life felt like a heavy chore. One chilly autumn afternoon, an old traveler walked into the workshop. The traveler carried a beautiful, ancient wooden chest. The traveler looked at Julian's exhausted face and sighed gently. "You are fixing time," the traveler said, "but you are letting your own life slip away." Julian looked up, confused. "I have too many worries to enjoy life," Julian replied honestly. The traveler opened the chest and pulled out a small, glass hourglass. But this hourglass was different. The sand inside was not flowing. It was completely stuck at the top narrow opening. Julian leaned closer to inspect it. "The sand cannot pass," Julian murmured, touching the glass. "Because too many grains are trying to squeeze through the narrow neck all at the exact same moment." The traveler nodded slowly. "This is exactly what you are doing to your own spirit, watchmaker." The traveler placed his hand on the glass. "Your mind is trying to process yesterday's regrets, today's tasks, and tomorrow's fears all at once. When you try to force the entire future through the present moment, you become jammed. You stop moving entirely. You freeze." The traveler left the strange hourglass on the table and walked away. That night, Julian did not try to sleep. He sat by the candlelight, staring at the stuck sand. He realized a painful truth. He had spent his entire life trying to live 1,000 different days at once. The next morning, Julian did something he had never done before. He hung a small sign on his shop door that said, "Closed for peace." He put on his worn dark green wool coat and walked toward the edge of the village, where a great forest stood. He walked until the sounds of the village disappeared completely. The forest was alive, yet it was perfectly quiet. Animals did not seem to worry about tomorrow. The trees did not hurry to grow. Everything simply existed exactly where it was in the present moment. He arrived at the edge of a great, silent lake. The water was so calm it looked like a sheet of pure glass. Julian sat down on a mossy stone. He picked up a large, heavy rock from the ground, holding it tightly in his old hands. He squeezed the rock with all his strength. His fingers began to ache. His wrist grew tired, and his arm started to tremble from the strain. Yet, he refused to let go. He sat there for a long time, intentionally punishing his own body. Finally, the pain became too much to bear. Julian opened his hand. The rock dropped into the soft moss with a quiet thud. His fingers uncurled, and a deep wave of physical relief rushed up his arm. He exhaled a long, shaky breath. A voice spoke from behind him. "The stone did not cause you pain because it was heavy," the voice said gently. Julian turned his head. It was an old monk wearing simple, faded orange robes, holding a wooden walking staff. "It hurt because you refused to put it down." Julian looked at his empty palm. "My mind carries 1,000 stones just like this one," Julian admitted softly. The monk smiled, pointing his staff toward the glassy lake. "Look at the water, watchmaker. What happens when a bird touches the surface?" It creates ripples, Julian said, watching the circles expand. Yes, the monk replied. The lake reacts to the bird. But notice what the water does next. It does not fight the ripple. It does not try to hold onto the movement. It simply lets the ripple pass and returns to stillness. The monk threw a small handful of pebbles into the lake. Your mind is currently like a lake being constantly pelted by stones, the monk explained. You think that if you analyze the splash, you can stop the waves. But the only way to calm the water is to stop throwing the stones. Julian closed his eyes. For years, he had treated every single thought as a problem that demanded a lifetime of solving. He thought worrying was a form of responsibility. But standing by the water, he realized that overthinking was actually an act of hidden cowardice, a way to avoid taking real actions in the present. He thanked the monk and began his walk back to the village. The streets were exactly the same, but Julian felt completely different. He noticed the beautiful orange tint of the setting sun hitting the clay roofs. He noticed the laughter of children playing near the fountain. He was finally arriving in his own life. When he returned to his workshop, he picked up the traveler's hourglass. The sand was still completely stuck at the narrow neck. Julian smiled gently. He did not get angry at the glass, nor did he try to force the sand down with frustration. He simply understood the lesson it held. Julian extended a single finger and tapped the side of the glass very gently. One single grain of sand broke free from the tight crowd and fell gracefully through the narrow neck. Then another grain followed. Then another. By releasing the pressure of the crowd, the flow returned. One grain at a time, Julian whispered to the empty room. One moment at a time. That is the only way a life can be lived without breaking. From that evening forward, Julian practiced a strict new habit. Whenever a heavy worry entered his mind, he refused to sit and feed it. If the worry was about a broken clock fabric, he stood up immediately and fixed it. If the worry was about a past mistake or a distant future fear that he could not solve right then, he took a deep breath, pictured the rippling lake, and allowed the thought to pass through him like water. Months passed, and the heavy atmosphere inside the watchmaker's shop transformed into a sanctuary of peace. One morning, a young village boy named Leo ran into the workshop. Leo was holding a broken brass pocket watch that belonged to his late father. The boy was trembling, tears streaming down his face. "Sir, I dropped it." Leo sobbed desperately. "The mainspring is warped, and the glass is shattered. I can't stop thinking about how stupid I was. What if it can never be fixed? What if I ruined the only memory I have left of my father?" The boy was panicking. Julian looked into the boy's panicked eyes. He saw his own past self standing there, a soul trapped in the cruel machinery of his own endless doubts. Julian smiled with a profound, calm warmth that instantly made the room feel safer. "Listen to me very carefully, Leo," Julian said softly. "Worrying about the drop will not mend the shattered glass," Julian explained gently. "Blaming yourself 1,000 times will not straighten a warped spring. Right now, your mind is trying to carry the weight of the accident, the loss of your past, and the fear of your future all at once." Julian walked to his desk and picked up the traveler's ancient glass hourglass. The sand inside was now flowing beautifully, grain by grain, creating a small, elegant mound at the bottom. He placed the hourglass directly into Leo's small, cold hands. "Look at this sand, Leo," Julian said, his voice rhythmic and steady like a perfectly balanced pendulum. "If all these grains tried to force their way through the glass neck at the same exact time, the machine would jam. It would freeze. It would become completely useless, just like an overthinking mind." Leo looked up, wiping his wet cheeks. "Then, what should I do, sir?" Julian held up a single, delicate silver screwdriver. "We do not fix the whole watch in one emotional panic, Leo. We fix it grain by grain. We take one single action right now." Julian guided the boy to sit beside him at the grand wooden workbench. Together, under the warm, comforting glow of the oil lamp, they took the watch apart piece by piece. They did not talk about the past. They did not worry about the final result. They only focused on the single gear in front of them. Within 2 hours, the warped mainspring was replaced, a fresh glass cover was fitted, and the old brass watch began to tick once again. The sound was crisp, rhythmic, and full of life. Leo held the ticking watch against his ear, his face exploding into a radiant, beautiful smile. "Thank you, Master Julian," Leo said, hugging the watch tightly before stepping out into the vibrant village street. Julian watched him walk away with a profound sense of fulfillment. He realized that by teaching the boy how to quiet his mind, he had passed down the greatest treasure a human could ever possess. Years passed by gracefully, and Julian became known throughout the valley not just as a master watchmaker, but as a keeper of absolute peace. People came from distant towns just to sit in his quiet shop, to breathe in the stillness, and to learn how to put down their own invisible stones. The heavy, suffocating prison of his mind was gone forever. He no longer fought the phantom problems of yesterday, nor did he fear the unwritten pages of tomorrow. He simply allowed his life to unfold naturally, one beautiful grain of sand at a time, entirely free within the present. The greatest illusion of the human mind is the belief that worry is a shield against suffering. We think that if we think enough, we can control the winds of fate. But true emotional resilience does not come from controlling the external world. It comes from mastering the climate inside your own head. Your mind is a beautiful instrument, but when you let it run without discipline, it becomes a tyrant that destroys your joy. If you spend your entire today regretting your yesterday, you effectively ruin 2 days at the exact same time. Choose to visit your past exclusively for its lessons, but never build a home there. You do not have to solve your entire life tonight. You do not have to predict every single outcome or fix every broken relationship before you sleep. You only need to handle the single, present hour that stands directly before you. Release the heavy stones of expectation and allow yourself to simply breathe. So, if your brain feels loud and your soul feels exhausted today, remember the old watchmaker and his hourglass. Take one deep, conscious breath. Look at the tasks before you and ask yourself, what is mine to do in this exact single moment? Do that small thing with all your heart, and let the rest pass like ripples on a lake. Because life changes completely the moment you stop fighting the river and finally allow yourself to flow. If this deep story brought peace to your mind today, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and write down in the comments below, 1 moment daily. Share this message with a friend who is fighting a loud mind today, because a timely reminder can change a destiny forever.